Ryan was not a man who often found himself in the middle of great events. He had grown up on a small mining station at the edge of human space, learning the skills of repair, welding, and machine maintenance. He knew how to fix broken panels, how to make a faulty engine run again, and how to patch a leak in the middle of the night. When he signed up to join a trade mission to the world of the Tiari, he thought it would simply be another job. He expected long hours of labor, the smell of hot metal, and the usual complaints from pilots who never treated their ships properly. What he did not expect was to become the center of alien attention. The Tiari were different from humans in many ways. Their tall figures and silver blue skin gave them a noble appearance, and their eyes carried strange rings of color that seemed to shift when they spoke. Ryan had seen them only from afar, and even then he thought of them as distant, elegant beings, not the type to speak with a man who carried grease on his clothes. Yet the trade mission required repairs to an old machine deep in the heart of their ceremonial hall, and no Tiari engineer seemed willing to touch it. That was how Ryan, with a set of tools in his bag and very little understanding of alien rituals, found himself walking into a chamber filled with glowing symbols and silent watchers. The hall was wide and round, its walls covered with carvings that told stories of ancient victories and old promises. In the center stood a tall device made of metal and crystal, humming faintly as if alive. Ryan had repaired machines that hummed before, but this one felt different. It pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat, and the carvings around it all pointed toward its base. An elder of the Tiari, dressed in flowing robes, explained the problem. His voice was calm, though his words were heavy with meaning that Ryan did not understand. The elder spoke of the bond machine, of lines of life, and of the chosen path. Ryan nodded politely, though most of it passed over his head. To him, it was just a machine, and he was here to fix it. He knelt by the base of the device and pulled out his scanner. Wires crossed like veins, crystal nodes glimmered, and a faint vibration shook the floor beneath him. He could see that one of the crystal nodes had cracked, and the flow of energy was unstable. He reached for a replacement crystal, one that the Tiari had provided, and carefully placed it into the slot. The hum grew louder, steady now, like a breath filling lungs. The elder spoke again, this time in a tone of ceremony. Several young Tiari stepped closer, among them two sisters, one slightly older with calm eyes, the other younger with an eager look. They stood side by side, watching closely. Ryan gave them a small smile, though he did not want to distract himself from the work. Just need to realign the conduits, he muttered under his breath. He adjusted the crystal, connected the wires, and touched the control panel. The machine flared to life. A ring of light spread out across the floor, rushing outward until it circled the entire chamber. The carvings glowed as if fire had filled their lines. The hum turned into a low chant, a vibration that pressed into Ryan's chest. He stumbled back, startled, but the younger sister stepped forward as if pulled by an unseen force. The ring of light rose from the floor and wrapped around her. Her eyes widened, glowing faintly, and she reached out instinctively toward Ryan. The bond snapped into place with a sound like thunder, though no air moved. For a moment Ryan felt his heart skip, then rush forward as if he were breathing in someone else's air. He felt warmth, fear, and surprise that were not his own. The chamber erupted in gasps. The elder's voice broke the silence. The link has been forged. Ryan stared at the younger sister, who stared back at him. He did not know her name, yet he felt her presence inside his mind. A tremor ran down his spine. The older sister stepped forward, confusion plain on her face. "This is wrong," she said sharply. The bond was meant for me. The elder frowned, his colorful eyes dim with concern. He turned to Ryan, then to the younger sister. The machine does not choose by mistake, he said. Yet this is not the path we expected. Ryan raised his hands helplessly. I was only fixing it. I didn't mean for this to happen. But even as he spoke, he could feel the truth. The bond was real. It connected him to the younger sister in a way no tool could undo. He felt her heartbeat, quick and uncertain. He felt her thoughts brush against his own, like whispers on the edge of hearing. The chamber filled with murmurs. The Tiari gathered in small groups, speaking in low tones. Some looked at Ryan with suspicion, others with awe. The elder tried to calm them, but the tension in the air was heavy. The older sister's eyes narrowed. She crossed her arms, standing tall. If the bond cannot be broken, then we must live with its mistake. But do not think this ends here. Ryan swallowed, unsure of what he had just stepped into. He had come to fix a machine. Now he was bound to an alien he had never met before, in front of her entire people. The younger sister took a slow breath and spoke softly, though her voice carried in the chamber. My name is Lyra. And whether this was meant or not, the bond has chosen. Ryan's heart pounded. He had no idea what it meant to be chosen, no idea what the Tiari would demand of him, and no idea how to explain to his human friends that he had accidentally tied his life to an alien stranger. All he knew was that nothing would ever be the same again. The chamber remained tense long after the machine settled into silence. The glow faded from the carvings, but the memory of what had just happened hung heavy in the air. Ryan stood frozen, tools still in his hands, while the younger sister, Lyra, kept glancing at him with wide uncertain eyes. The older sister, Sira, stayed close, her arms crossed tightly, her face caught between anger and disbelief. The elder raised both hands, trying to calm the gathering. The bond has spoken. It has tied the outsider to Lyra. Whether by intent or mistake, the connection is alive. We must respect what is written in the old lines. Ryan wanted to protest, but his voice caught in his throat. He could still feel the strange pull in his chest. It was like standing too close to a magnet, an invisible thread tugging at him. When he looked at Lyra, the feeling grew stronger, and he realized he could sense her emotions even though she had not spoken. Her nervousness mixed with a spark of wonder. It washed over him in a wave, making his own heart race faster. He took a shaky breath. I only replaced the crystal. I didn't mean for this. The elder nodded gravely. Sometimes meaning does not matter. The bond is beyond meaning. It is life to life. Sira stepped forward. This is not acceptable. The bond was prepared for me. I studied for it. I trained for it. The council planned this moment to strengthen our family's place in the colony. And now it has gone to the wrong one. Her words struck Ryan like a hammer. Wrong one. He glanced at Lyra, expecting her to protest, but she stayed quiet. He felt her discomfort through the link, like a dull ache pressing at the back of his mind. She lowered her eyes, as if she had already accepted her sister's judgment. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck, wishing he could disappear. If there's a way to undo this, I'll do it. Just tell me what to do. The elder shook his head. Once forged, the bond cannot be broken. It can only fade if life itself fades. You and Lyra are connected now, and that truth will not change. Whispers rippled through the gathered Tiari. Some looked fearful, others curious. A few even bowed slightly toward Ryan as if the accident had made him into something important. He did not know whether to feel honored or trapped. Sira clenched her fists. Then we must find another way. I will not stand aside while my sister gains what was meant for me. She turned on her heel and walked out of the chamber, her long steps sharp with anger. The elder sighed, but he did not stop her. Instead, he looked at Ryan and Lyra. You will need guidance. The bond brings strength, but it also brings danger. Learn quickly, for the days ahead will test you both. Ryan did not know what those words meant, but he had no chance to ask before the elder left as well, leaving only a few attendants in the chamber. The great machine continued to hum softly, as if mocking him. Lyra stood in silence for a long moment, then finally looked at him. Her voice was soft, almost apologetic. I did not ask for this, but it is done. The bond has chosen us. Ryan shifted awkwardly. I'm sorry if this ruins things for you. Your sister seemed angry enough to burn holes in me. A small smile tugged at Lyra's lips, though her eyes still held worry. Sira has always been strong. She believes every path should be earned through effort. She will not accept that chance has given me something she worked for. Ryan sighed. Well, I didn't mean to give it to anyone. I was just doing my job. Lyra tilted her head. Yet the bond does not form by accident. Perhaps it saw something neither of us can see. Her words made him uneasy. He was no hero, no chosen figure. He was a mechanic who knew how to fix leaks and replace crystals. If fate or destiny truly played a part in this, then it had made a very strange choice. As they left the chamber, Ryan noticed how the connection between them lingered with every step. When she felt nervous, he felt a flutter in his own chest. When he worried, he sensed her quiet attempt to steady herself. It was confusing, but also strangely comforting. They were led to a smaller hall where attendants offered them food and water. Ryan tried to eat, but every bite felt heavy. Lyra sat across from him, her hands folded neatly, though her mind was loud enough that he could almost hear it. He set his cup down. Can you hear me too? Or is it just me? Lyra looked up, thoughtful. Not words. Only feelings. Like a shadow of thought. I can tell when you are restless. I can tell when you are unsure. That's unsettling, Ryan admitted. I'm not used to anyone knowing what I feel. She gave a gentle nod. Neither am I. But perhaps we will learn. Their conversation was interrupted by the sudden arrival of Sira. She strode into the hall with sharp steps, her expression colder than before. She stopped at the table, glaring at them both. This is not over, she said firmly. You may have the bond, but you do not have the right to carry it without question. I will not stand aside and watch my sister take what was promised to me. If the bond truly makes you stronger, prove it. Show that it was not wasted. Ryan stood slowly, unsure how to answer. He wanted to tell her he had no interest in power or promises, but the fire in her eyes made the words die on his lips. Lyra rose as well, placing a hand on the table for balance. Sira, please. This was not my choice. Her sister shook her head. Choice does not matter. What matters is how you use what you are given. And I will not rest until I know whether this bond makes you worthy. With that, she turned and left again, her long hair brushing over her shoulder as she disappeared into the corridor. Ryan exhaled slowly, his shoulders heavy. She's not going to make this easy, is she? Lyra shook her head, her eyes filled with both worry and quiet strength. No. But neither of us chose the easy path. We must walk the one given to us. Ryan leaned against the table, feeling the pull of the bond deep inside. He had come to this world as a simple worker, but now every step forward felt like it would change more than just his own life. He glanced at Lyra again and saw not only the uncertainty in her but also a spark of courage. Whatever lay ahead, he knew the consequences of this mistake were only beginning to unfold. The days after the bonding were not easy for Ryan. Every morning he woke with a weight in his chest, a reminder of the link that tied him to Lyra. At first, he thought it was only in his mind, but soon he realized that the bond had become a constant part of his life. When Lyra was restless, his thoughts scattered. When she was calm, he felt steadier. Even at a distance, her presence lingered like a faint echo. For Lyra, the experience was just as strange. She was used to carrying her own feelings in silence, but now they flowed towards someone else, slipping past walls she had always held firm. More than once, she caught herself hesitating to think certain thoughts, as if worried Ryan might sense them. She did not know how much he could truly feel, but the uncertainty made her cautious. Sira, on the other hand, refused to stay silent. She confronted them whenever she could, her words sharp as blades. She trained harder than before, practicing with staff and spear in the yards where the younger Tiari gathered to watch. Whenever Ryan passed, she would call out remarks that made her displeasure clear. A bond should go to one who understands duty, not a wanderer who stumbled into it. Or, machines should not decide the fate of families. Ryan tried to ignore her, but the bond made it impossible to hide how her words affected him. Lyra felt his frustration, and he felt her quiet sorrow at the growing divide between them. Still, neither could change what had happened. One afternoon, while repairing a damaged generator on the edge of the colony, Ryan spoke aloud though no one was nearby. "Do you ever wish it had been her instead?" The bond carried the question even before Lyra answered. She stood at the other side of the colony, but he sensed her pause, as if she were holding her breath. Finally her thought reached him, soft and steady. "Sometimes I wonder. But then I feel your presence, and I believe the bond did not choose wrong." Her words eased him more than he expected. He tightened a loose cable and smiled faintly. "I'm just a mechanic. I don't see how this makes sense." "You fix what is broken," Lyra replied through the link. Perhaps that is what the bond saw. Ryan carried her words with him the rest of the day. They were simple, but they gave him a strange kind of strength. That night, the elder called them both to a council meeting. The chamber was filled with robed figures, their colorful eyes fixed on the two of them. Sira stood at the side, her arms crossed, watching every movement. The elder's voice was calm. "The bond is a gift and a burden. It gives strength to those who carry it, but only if they learn to move as one. You must train together, not only in body but in spirit. If you resist each other, the bond will twist into weakness. If you trust each other, it will grow into power." Ryan frowned. "Train together? I don't know your ways. I barely understand how this works." "That is why you will learn," the elder said firmly. "You are no longer two separate lives. You are linked. And the days ahead may require more of you than either of you can imagine." Sira spoke then, her tone sharp. "If they are to be tested, let the tests begin at once. We will see if this outsider deserves the gift that should have been mine." The elder silenced her with a raised hand. "Patience, Sira. The bond is not a tool of rivalry. It is a thread of survival. Still, Ryan could feel Syrah's frustration radiating across the chamber, even though the bond tied him only to Lyra. He wondered what it must be like for her, watching her younger sister stand in the place she had trained for all her life. The training began the next morning. Lyra met Ryan in the practice yard, carrying 2 wooden staffs. She handed one to him with a small smile. "We start simple. Balance. Movement. Nothing more." Ryan gripped the staff awkwardly. "I fix machines. I'm not much of a fighter." "Then think of it as fixing yourself," she said gently. At first, the training was clumsy. Ryan stumbled more than once, his steps too heavy, his swings too slow. Lyra moved with grace, her strikes controlled and precise. But the bond gave them a strange advantage. When she stepped forward, he felt the pull and followed more quickly. When he swung too wide, she sensed it and adjusted to guide him back. Slowly, almost without realizing, they began to move in rhythm. The other Tiari watched from the edges of the yard. Some whispered to each other, surprised at how quickly the pair found a flow. Others remained skeptical, especially Syrah, who stood with arms folded and eyes narrowed. After hours of practice, Ryan dropped onto the bench, wiping sweat from his brow. "I thought this would be impossible. But somehow it feels natural." Lyra sat beside him, her breathing calm. "That is the bond. It connects more than thought. It guides body as well. But it only works if we trust each other." He nodded slowly. "Then I'll trust you." For a moment, their eyes met, and the bond hummed softly between them like a quiet flame. Later that evening, Syrah approached Ryan alone. The training yard was empty, and the light of the twin moons cast long shadows across the ground. She stopped in front of him, her voice low but firm. "You think this bond makes you worthy," she said. "But it does not. You stumbled into something you do not understand, and now my sister carries it with you. Do you realize what burden you've placed on her?" Ryan stood, meeting her gaze. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose it. But I won't run from it either. If this bond ties me to Lyra, then I'll do everything I can to make sure it doesn't harm her." For a brief moment, Syrah's eyes softened, but the fire returned quickly. "We will see. The bond may link you, but strength is proven in action, not words. If you fail her, I will not forgive you." She turned and walked away, her figure fading into the shadows. Ryan sat back down, his heart heavy. The bond pulsed gently, and he felt Lyra's quiet reassurance reaching out to him. She had not heard the words, but she felt the storm inside him. He closed his eyes, letting her calm steady him. He did not know what trials lay ahead, but he understood one truth: the tension between the three of them was only growing, and soon it would force them into choices none of them were ready to make. Ryan's days became a rhythm of work, training, and uneasy glances from the colony. Every corridor he walked carried whispers. Some Tiari admired him as if fate had placed him in their lives for a reason. Others avoided him, muttering that the bond should never have joined human blood with Tiari life. Ryan ignored most of it, but the weight never left his shoulders. The training with Lyra grew more demanding. The elders' lessons were not only about fighting but about moving as one. Sometimes they were told to spar with staffs, other times to walk blindfolded while trusting the bond to guide their steps. Slowly Ryan discovered that the more he trusted Lyra's instincts, the more his own body seemed to respond without hesitation. Yet the bond was not always comfortable. It tied them even in private moments. When Ryan felt doubt about himself, Lyra felt it as if it were her own. When she grew tired of her sister's sharp words, Ryan carried that frustration too. At times it made them both stronger, but at other times it pulled them into silence. Syrah's presence only deepened the strain. She continued to test them with challenges that went beyond training. One afternoon she appeared in the practice yard with a spear in her hand. Without warning, she hurled it toward Ryan. The weapon struck the dirt only a step from his feet. "Did the bond warn you in time?" she asked coldly. Ryan clenched his fists. "You could have killed me. If the bond makes you stronger, then you should be alive," she replied. Her tone carried no apology, only a cold judgment. Lyra stepped between them, her voice firm. "Enough, Syrah. This anger does not serve anyone." Her sister looked at her, and for a brief moment something softer flickered in her eyes. But it vanished as quickly as it came. "You carry something that was meant for me. Do not ask me to accept it so easily." She turned and walked away, leaving silence behind. That night, Ryan sat by the edge of the colony wall, staring at the twin moons above. The bond hummed gently, and he felt Lyra draw near before she spoke. "She does not hate you," Lyra said quietly. "She hates the path that was taken from her." Ryan sighed. "Then maybe she should hate me less and the machine more. I didn't choose this." Lyra sat beside him, folding her hands in her lap. "Neither did I. But sometimes life ties us to things we never asked for. I do not know why the bond chose me, but I will not waste the chance it gave." Ryan looked at her. "You believe it was a gift?" She paused, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Perhaps not a gift, but a test. The bond shows us who we truly are. If I can carry it with honor, then maybe it does not matter why it came." Her words stirred something inside him. He was only a mechanic, but he wanted to prove that he could carry the weight too. In the following days, Syrah began to appear more often during training. She did not train beside them but stood at the edge, watching silently. Sometimes she would correct Lyra's form with sharp instructions, sometimes she would throw a challenge toward Ryan, forcing him to act quickly. Though her words were still harsh, Ryan noticed her eyes watching closely, as if she were testing him not only to see him fail but to see if he could endure. The bond between Ryan and Lyra deepened with each lesson. Once, when a heavy staff came crashing toward his head, he moved before his eyes even registered the danger. Later he realized he had felt Lyra's warning pulse through the bond, guiding his step. Another time, when she stumbled on the training ground, his hand was there to catch her without thinking. The crowd of onlookers murmured in surprise, but to Ryan it felt natural, as though their movements had begun to merge. Still, the pull of two sisters grew heavier. Ryan sensed Lyra's quiet hope, her wish that the bond could bring peace between them all. But he also felt Syrah's sharp determination pressing at the edges of his life. She did not carry the bond, yet she pressed herself into its shadow, demanding that it prove itself. One evening, as the sun sank beyond the horizon, Syrah found Ryan alone in the repair yard. He was tightening bolts on a generator when she approached. For once, her voice was not sharp but thoughtful. "You move differently now," she said. "When you fight, when you walk, even when you speak. The bond has changed you." Ryan set his tool down. "Or maybe I'm just learning not to trip over myself every time you throw a spear at me." A faint smile touched her lips, though it faded quickly. "Do not mistake me. I still do not accept that this was meant for you. But I cannot deny that you are not as weak as I first thought." Ryan tilted his head. That almost sounded like respect. Almost, she said, her eyes narrowing. But respect must be earned fully, not given for surviving a few lessons. She turned to leave, but before she did, her gaze lingered on him longer than usual. Ryan felt a strange mix of emotions in that look, something caught between rivalry and curiosity. Later that night, Lyra sat with him near the gardens. She leaned against the stone wall, her voice soft. She is watching you more closely now. Ryan nodded. I noticed. I don't know what she wants. Lyra lowered her eyes. She wants proof. She has always lived in the shadow of expectation, and now she fears being left in the shadow of the bond as well. Ryan studied her face, the calm strength she carried even with so much weight pressing on her. And what about you? What do you want? Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at him, her voice steady. I want to believe the bond was not a mistake. I want to believe it can bring more than conflict. Perhaps even unity. Ryan felt the bond pulse warmly at her words. He realized that her hope was not only for herself but for her sister as well. And in that moment he understood the true pull between the three of them. It was not just about fate or mistake. It was about choice. And soon, choices would be demanded of them all. The colony stood at the edge of the great desert, its tall towers of stone and crystal glowing faintly under the twin moons. For many years, the Tiari had lived in peace here, trading with nearby settlements and guarding the old machines that filled their sacred halls. But peace never lasted forever. Beyond the desert, rival clans watched with hungry eyes. And now, word of the strange bond between a human and a Tiari had spread farther than anyone expected. Ryan first sensed the danger through the bond. He was repairing a broken water pump when a sudden shiver ran through his chest. His hand froze, the wrench slipping from his fingers. At the same moment, he felt Lyra's fear ripple through him though she was on the far side of the colony. Her voice reached him across the link, quick and urgent. Something is wrong. Riders are coming from the east. He dropped his tools and ran toward the walls. By the time he arrived, dozens of figures had appeared at the edge of the horizon. Their beasts kicked up waves of sand, their banners snapping in the hot wind. The guards shouted warnings, and soon the colony was filled with the sound of rushing feet and clattering weapons. The elder stood on the wall, his voice calm but commanding. It is the clan of Varuk. They come to test our strength. Ryan swallowed hard. He had heard whispers of the Varuk before. Fierce, ruthless, they believed in taking what they wanted rather than waiting for trade. He had never imagined facing them. Lyra joined him at the wall, her face steady despite the bond carrying her hidden fear. They know of us, she said softly. The bond has made us a target. They will try to break us to weaken the colony. Sira appeared beside them, spear in hand, her eyes burning with determination. Then let them try. We will show them that the bond is no weakness. The Varuk riders halted just beyond the range of arrows. Their leader, tall and broad-shouldered, raised his weapon high. His voice carried across the desert wind. People of Tiari, you hide behind walls, clinging to the past. But we know of your new link, the strange tie between alien and kin. It is unnatural, and it marks you as weak. Surrender the bonded pair to us, and we may spare the rest of you. Murmurs rippled through the crowd on the wall. All eyes turned toward Ryan and Lyra. Ryan's heart pounded. He wanted to shout that this had nothing to do with him, that he was only a mechanic who had made a mistake. But the bond pulsed in his chest, and he felt Lyra's steady courage flowing into him. The elder stepped forward. His voice was firm. The bond is not weakness. It is our strength. We will not surrender our own. The Varric leader laughed, the sound harsh. Then prepare to be broken. He signaled his riders, and the desert erupted with motion. The battle came quickly. Arrows whistled through the air. Shields clashed. The ground shook with the charge of beasts. Ryan had never fought in a battle before, but he found himself pulled into it by the bond. Lyra fought at his side, staff in her hands, moving with sharp precision. He felt her intent through the link before she even acted, and his body responded without thought. When a rider swung down at him, he ducked at the exact moment she struck upward, knocking the attacker from his beast. The bond carried more than movement. It carried strength. Each time fear rose in his chest, Lyra steadied him. Each time her arms grew tired, his resolve pushed her forward. Together, they moved like two parts of one whole. Sira fought nearby, her spear flashing in the sunlight. She moved with fierce energy, but her eyes often flicked toward Ryan and Lyra. She saw how the bond gave them speed and unity, and though her face carried no smile, something in her gaze shifted. The Varric pressed hard. They tried to split the defenders, circling the walls, striking at the gates. But every time the line threatened to break, Ryan and Lyra were there, holding it together. Once, when Ryan stumbled under the weight of a blow, Lyra caught him not with her hands but with the bond itself, sending him a surge of strength that lifted him back to his feet. Another time, when Lyra was surrounded, Ryan leapt forward without thinking, his staff striking in perfect rhythm with hers, scattering the attackers. The defenders rallied. The sight of the bonded pair fighting side by side filled them with renewed courage. Cries rose across the walls, and the Varric found themselves pushed back. Their leader shouted in fury, but even he could not deny that the tide was turning. At last, as the sun dipped low, the Varric pulled away. Their beasts turned, carrying them back into the desert. The leader raised his weapon one last time, his voice ringing with anger. This is not the end. The bond will be your downfall. We will return. Then they vanished into the sands, leaving silence behind. The colony erupted in relief. Cheers filled the air, though many were too weary to lift their voices high. Ryan leaned on his staff, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his face. The bond hummed warmly, filled with Lyra's steady pride. Sira approached them, her spear still in her hand. She looked at Ryan first, then at her sister. For a long moment she said nothing. Finally she spoke, her voice low but clear. The bond may have stolen my place, but today it saved us all. Perhaps it is not as much of a curse as I believed. Ryan met her eyes. I never wanted to take anything from you. I just wanted to survive. But if this bond can protect people, then I'll fight with it as long as I must. For the first time, Sira's expression softened. She gave a small nod. Then perhaps you are not as unworthy as I thought. The elder stepped forward, his robes dusty from the battle. His colorful eyes glimmered as he looked at the three of them. This day has shown us that the bond is more than chance. It is a force that shapes our future. But know this: the Varric will not stop. They will come again, and they will come stronger. We must be ready. As the colony worked to repair its walls and tend to the wounded, Ryan stood on the rampart, staring into the desert where the riders had vanished. The bond pulsed quietly within him, steady and alive. Lyra stood at his side, her presence calm and unshaken. Behind them, Sira watched silently, her spear resting against her shoulder. The external threat had come, and for now, they had survived. But deep inside, Ryan knew this was only the beginning. The Varric would return, and when they did, the bond would be tested more than ever before. The morning after the battle was quiet, but the tension in the colony remained. Everyone moved with careful steps, repairing damage from the Varric attack and tending to those who had been injured. Ryan walked through the corridors, carrying supplies, while the bond hummed gently in his chest. Lyra was beside him, her calm presence guiding him with every step. Sira followed behind, silent but watchful. Ryan could feel her judgment, sharp and unyielding, pressing at the edges of his mind. She was no longer trying to attack him directly, but her presence reminded him that the bond had not erased rivalry. It had only changed the battlefield. The elder called them to the council hall. Ryan, Lyra, and Sira entered together, the room filled with murmuring Tiari. The elder's colorful eyes scanned the room, then rested on the three of them. The Varric have retreated for now, he began. But their return is certain. They will come stronger, with more troops and more cunning. We must decide how to face them. Ryan shifted uneasily. He was not a soldier. He was a mechanic, a simple worker. Yet the bond had already thrown him into battles he had never imagined. He could feel Lyra's quiet strength through the connection, her resolve steadying his own nerves. Sira stepped forward, her voice firm. The Varric will not wait. We must take the fight to them. We cannot simply defend the colony, we must strike first and show them that we are not weak. The elder nodded slowly. A bold plan. But it will require unity, not division. Ryan, Lyra, you will lead a small strike team with our most skilled fighters. Sira, you will accompany them. Your presence will ensure discipline and strength. Ryan swallowed hard. He had never led anyone in battle. He looked at Lyra, who met his eyes calmly. He felt her trust and determination, and it gave him courage he did not know he had. We will do it, Lyra said quietly. We will protect the colony and prove that the bond is strength, not weakness. Sira's eyes softened slightly, but her tone remained firm. Then we will act as one. I will not allow failure. The preparations began immediately. Ryan worked with the Tiari engineers to modify weapons and defenses. Lyra trained with the fighters, her skill with the staff inspiring confidence. Sira oversaw strategy and tactics, her sharp mind anticipating enemy movements. Despite the tension, the three of them found a rhythm. The bond pulsed steadily, guiding Ryan in ways he could not fully understand, helping him act with precision and speed. By the time the sun set, their small strike team was ready. They gathered at the edge of the desert, hidden by rocks and sand dunes. Ryan could feel the bond vibrating gently, matching Lyra's focus and determination. Sira stood nearby, her spear ready, her gaze scanning the horizon. We move at first light, Sira said. The Varric will not expect us so soon. Surprise will be our advantage. Ryan nodded, feeling a mixture of fear and resolve. He had never thought of himself as brave, but the bond gave him strength he did not know existed. The night passed with restless hours. Ryan sat near the edge of the rocks, his hands gripping his staff. Lyra's presence beside him was calming, her thoughts reaching him like a gentle current. He could sense her calm determination, her quiet hope, and it steadied his own fear. When the first light of dawn stretched across the desert, they moved. The strike team advanced silently, each step measured and careful. Ryan felt the bond guide him, sensing Lyra's instincts before she acted. Together, they moved like shadows, unseen by the Varric scouts who patrolled the dunes. The battle began when they reached the enemy camp. The Varric were caught off guard. Ryan and Lyra struck as one, their movements coordinated through the bond. Scyra fought beside them, her spear striking with deadly accuracy. The team moved with precision, disabling the enemy's supplies and cutting off their escape routes. The Varric leader realized too late that the colony had sent not just skilled fighters, but a pair linked by something far stronger than training alone. He shouted orders, but the team anticipated every move. The bond allowed Ryan and Lyra to react instantly, covering each other's blind spots, moving in perfect rhythm. Scyra watched them closely. She had doubted Ryan at first, but now she saw his courage and skill. He was not just surviving, he was fighting with the confidence and coordination of someone who belonged on the battlefield. She could not deny the power of the bond. As the sun climbed higher, the Varric began to retreat. The strike team held the ground firmly, forcing the enemy to withdraw back into the desert. Ryan felt the bond hum proudly, carrying Lyra's quiet satisfaction. They had succeeded. When they returned to the colony, the elders greeted them with relief and pride. The villagers cheered, though many were still in awe of the human who had stood side by side with Lyra and Scyra. The elder approached the three of them, his eyes bright. "Today, you proved that the bond is not a mistake. It is strength. You acted as one, and the colony is safe because of it. But know this: the Varric will not give up. You must remain vigilant, for their return is certain." Ryan looked at Lyra, feeling the bond pulse warmly. "We did it," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied, her eyes steady. "Together." Scyra stepped forward, her expression unreadable. She placed a hand briefly on Ryan's shoulder. "You have earned my respect," she said. "Not because of the bond, but because of your actions. Do not let it make you careless." Ryan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. The bond had brought him here, but it was his courage, his choices, that had made them survive. That night, as the colony rested, Ryan and Lyra sat together on the rampart. The twin moons reflected on their skin, and the bond thrummed quietly between them. He felt her pride and calm strength, and he realized that the path ahead, no matter how dangerous, could be faced together. Scyra watched from a distance, silent but no longer hostile. She had seen the bond in action, and while she might never fully accept its choice, she could no longer deny its power. The colony had survived, but the threat was far from over. The Varric would return, and the trials ahead would be even greater. Yet for the first time, Ryan felt not fear, but determination. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was part of something larger, a bond that carried both responsibility and strength. The morning air in the colony was crisp, carrying the scent of stone and sand. After the recent battle, the Tiari moved with quiet purpose, repairing what had been broken and preparing for the days ahead. The elders spoke of vigilance, training, and unity, but for Ryan, Lyra, and Scyra, a new understanding had begun to grow. Ryan walked alongside Lyra, carrying a small crate of supplies. The bond pulsed gently, steady and warm, and he felt her thoughts brushing against his. She had grown more confident in herself and in him, and he could feel the calm strength she radiated. "I still cannot believe how far we have come," Ryan said, adjusting the crate. "A few weeks ago, I was just a mechanic fixing a machine. Now I'm part of all this." Lyra smiled softly. "You were always part of it." The bond only showed what was already there. You are stronger than you think, Ryan. He glanced at her, feeling the truth of her words resonate through the connection. I just hope I can live up to it. Behind them, Sira watched quietly. Her arms were crossed, but her posture was less rigid than before. She had witnessed Ryan's courage, his ability to act under pressure, and the way he and Lyra had moved as one. She had never expected to respect a human in this way, but the proof was undeniable. Later, the elder gathered the three of them for a meeting in the council hall. The room was filled with quiet anticipation. The elders spoke of the Varric threat and the preparations needed to protect the colony. But now, they also spoke of something new: unity between human and Tiari, proof that bonds beyond blood could bring strength. The bond has saved this colony more than once, the elder said. It has proven that the threads connecting lives can guide us to victory. We must honor it, nurture it, and allow it to shape the future. Ryan felt the bond pulse in agreement, carrying Lyra's quiet pride. He looked at her, realizing that the bond had grown stronger, no longer just a connection of feelings, but a source of guidance and trust. Sira spoke then, her voice calm but firm. We have seen what the bond can do. I do not fully understand it, and I may never, but I see its value. It can strengthen us all if we allow it. Ryan nodded. Then we keep working together. The Varric will come back, and we'll be ready. Lyra's eyes shone with determination. Together, she said. The days that followed were filled with training, preparation, and careful planning. Ryan worked closely with the Tiari engineers, improving defenses and modifying weapons. Lyra continued her practice, her movements faster and more precise than ever. Sira oversaw strategy and coordinated drills, her sharp mind guiding every decision. Though there were moments of tension, they were rare now. Ryan and Lyra had learned to rely on each other fully. The bond guided them in small ways: a shift in weight, a flicker of emotion, a silent warning. They moved with a unity that impressed even the elders. Sira watched from the sidelines, offering advice and critique, but she also allowed them room to grow. She had learned that the bond was not a threat to her, but a source of strength for the colony and for the sisters she cared for. One afternoon, as the twin moons began to rise, a scout returned with news. The Varric are regrouping, he said, his voice tense. They are gathering forces beyond the eastern dunes. Their numbers will be greater, and their attacks more coordinated. Ryan took a deep breath. The bond hummed gently, carrying Lyra's calm reassurance. He felt ready, not because he was fearless, but because he knew they would face whatever came together. The elder approached, his voice steady. We have time to prepare, but this warning reminds us that vigilance is constant. The bond between you two will be our symbol, but it is your actions that will protect the colony. Sira stepped closer, placing a hand briefly on Ryan's shoulder. We will stand together. I will not let the bond or the colony fail. Ryan looked at both sisters, feeling a surge of respect and gratitude. He realized that the bond had not only connected him to Lyra, but it had also created a bridge to Sira. The three of them, once divided by mistake and misunderstanding, were now united by trust, respect, and a shared purpose. That evening, they stood on the rampart, looking out over the desert. The colony was quiet, the walls repaired, and the people resting. Yet Ryan knew the peace was temporary. The Varric would return, but he no longer felt fear. The bond gave him strength, and the sisters at his side reminded him that no challenge could be faced alone. Lyra spoke softly, her voice carried through the bond. Whatever comes, we face it together. Ryan nodded. I will not fail you. Sira added, her voice steady and unwavering, nor will I fail the colony. Nor either of you. The three of them stood together, united in purpose and trust. The twin moons cast their silver light across the walls, illuminating not only the towers and streets, but the bonds that now held the colony stronger than ever. Ryan thought of the first day he had arrived, when a mistake had bound him to Lyra. At the time, he had feared that the bond would bring confusion, danger, and disappointment. Now he saw it differently. That mistake had brought him into a new world, into courage he did not know he possessed, and into connections that made him stronger. The elder's words echoed in his mind, strength comes not only from skill, but from trust and unity. The bond had shown him that truth, and it had reshaped their path. As night fell over the colony, Ryan, Lyra, and Sira sat together on the rampart. They spoke little, but the bond carried their understanding. Words were no longer necessary. They felt each other's resolve, courage, and quiet pride. They were no longer separate lives pulled by accident or choice, they were a team, united for whatever future awaited. In the distance, the desert stretched endlessly, and the stars began to shine. The Varrock would come again, but the colony was ready. The bond was stronger than before, tempered by challenge, shaped by courage, and guided by trust. Ryan took a deep breath, feeling the connection hum through him. He realized that the path ahead, no matter how dangerous, no matter how uncertain, could now be faced with confidence. Together, they would protect the colony, face their enemies, and grow stronger with every challenge. The bond had begun as a mistake, but it had become their greatest strength. And with the two sisters and himself standing together, Ryan knew that this new path, though difficult, was the right one. The twin moons shone brightly over the colony, reflecting the promise of unity, courage, and hope. The bond pulsed softly, and for the first time, Ryan felt a quiet certainty. Whatever the future held, they would face it together.